Welcome to For the Rising, a series of conversations with creatives excelling in their fields, helping you rise to your own success. I'm with Fran today. How do I pronounce your surname?
Cattaneo.
Cattaneo. Oh, that's such a sick name. What a sick name. You sound like a knight.
You want to pronounce it. I think it's like Cattaneo, Cattaneo, whatever.
No, Cattaneo.
Whatever tickles your fancy.
The actual thing. Fran is a London-based casting director working across stage and screen. Her first casting director credit was for Ella Glending. Help me.
I believe you're right there.
Well, I'm just going to go with that one. Short film Octopus, which screened at the 2022 BFI Flare Festival. She returned to the prestigious festival in 2025 with Please Carry On, which she co-produced and cast. She has continued her passion of female and queer-led short films with the BFI network, backed I Know a Place and Playground, along with Bury Your Gaze. I love saying that. It's very fun. That was great. Which stars and is exec produced by Tina Miller. Credits in theatre as a casting director include venues like the Yard Theatre, Theatre 503, the Bush Theatre, and Southwark Playhouse. She is currently assisting Roy Oakey,
correct.
For Screen, but has previously freelanced in the offices of Amy Kate Dolan, Dan Hubbard, and Heather Baston. She has assisted for stage in the offices of Jill Green, Lossie Hines, at the Donmar Warehouse, Stuart Burt, and Pearson Casting.
Wow, look at you go.
There's a lot of names there.
You smashed that.
I tried. I'm going to re-record that. I thought about this earlier the other day. I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to re-record it.
There's a lot of names in there.
But you know, I never know what's personality or precision.
I'd say personality.
I know, right? You want to go
conviction, which I respected. You got all the way through it. I also know that like the back of my hand as well. So I was like,
I have slimmed it down.
Yeah, I was like, here we go. He's gonna get through all of it.
I'm gonna get through all of it. I take out some of the names of the shows because I'm like, if I try that, I will suffocate myself. I'm not that well trained as an actor. But no, I'm super excited to kind of have you on. I think there's the general thing that we have in the industry of like casting directors talking to actors and going for the Q&A thing, and like we're going to get to hear from a casting director. But I also think there's a strength to this in the sense that you can talk to many different people. There doesn't have to be one demographic of people that you're talking to for this. So I was interested in hearing about your, I was going to say descent. It's not a descent. It's a rise into casting.
One would
hope. They would say, how do you fall into it? How do you fall into it? But was there anything else creative before kind of landing in casting overall?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like I'm a big believer that like in the creative world, like you've got to sort of like dabble in as many things, or try to at least, in order to also understand how things work, right? A piece of art isn't created by one human being. It's created by like so many different people on stage, off stage, in pre-production and post-production. So when I was at uni, I did like a load of like producing, stage management. I did like marketing. I tried my hand at acting. Will never do that again. And so when I left uni, I kind of loved so many aspects of those roles. I loved the organization, being around people, being able to like facilitate that like level of like creativity. And I even tried my hand in like headshot photography. I did some production photography. And by doing that, I kind of realized that all of those jobs were consistently being surrounded by actors. And that could be either when you're a stage manager helping them get into costume and figure out their props, to producing is like during the casting process and being in the rehearsal room. Obviously headshot photography, predominantly actors getting their headshots done. So yeah, I'd say there's like a lot of different avenues to get in there, and I don't think if you talk to most casting directors or even agents, for example, like they didn't just start as that, because it's just never going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, respect people who that has happened to them and they know their goal or whatever, but I very much was like, I had no clue what I wanted to do.
Might have been a bit rare.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think that's like, I have the similar thing for like multidisciplinary artists across like writing, acting, whatever. 100%. And I think that there was a benefit to that for me. I think there was downsides to that as well, because I can know too much about someone else's job, and then I'm like, am I overstepping? And like, it's a big thing for me not to want to step on anyone's toes.
Yeah.
But that makes a lot of sense. And I think a new thought that came from that is like, when you kind of made that transition or thought that you were going to now go into casting, or that was the thing to continue to pursue, was it an active choice to kind of drag these actors that you've been meeting through headshots and stuff like that? Were you creating your catalogue from then, if that makes sense?
No, that's really, really interesting. I find myself very much like, when I'm casting my own things, I'm noticing the same names popping up, but purely from like what feels like 10 years ago. I was like, oh, I met them when I was working at the Edinburgh Fringe and we had a pint like after a show. So it's like really gorgeous to be able to like bring people who started off with you into a position now where you're like, oh, I can actually like hopefully give you a job. So definitely I've noticed like along the way, and it probably comes mainly from like a theatre background, is the like seeing people who started off in the fringe theatre world and have now like progressed to get like TV credits and film credits, and being able to see them actually in so many different sort of forms and like genres, and it not just being like, you know, I respect their like idea of like still making theatre and creating theatre and, you know, being part of a like theatre company, but also being able to sort of like give them an opportunity in something that feels like very different and like curveball a bit, has been really gorgeous and has been like a really lovely way of kind of like not giving back, because that feels a bit odd in a term, but like kind of that idea that like we're growing together, and it's not like I'm going up a ladder and they're going up a separate ladder and we're never going to come together. It's kind of like we're all pulling each other up, and that's like the beauty of growing with someone in the industry. The creative industry is built on connections of who you know, in the sense of like find your tribe, find your people, and like if you don't have that, I feel like you don't really have like anything, or like your what is it? Your the grounding to which you make your career will just kind of crumble.
Yeah, the foundations
completely. Yeah,
makes a lot of sense. The choice to make the kind of dedication to casting, whenever that came about, was there this idea of wherever it will end up? Like, did you have a goal? And I think I'm phrasing this question from like the perspective of someone who might be iffing and ahhing or on the fence about going into casting. Like, was there like a goal for you that like, oh, I would like to be that?
Yeah, it's a weird one, because I've been really lucky to work in so many different offices that work on so many different kinds of projects, and that's not only like format wise, you know, film and like film, TV, theatre, musical theatre, commercials, but it's also different genres, right? Like I've worked on ones which feel like these really grand scale like worlds where you're working with like 50 plus cast members, or these like tiny intimate indie films that are like, so it's like that's been like a real joy to sort of see the difference in that. And I think I needed to learn what I liked through that. I feel like I couldn't have just gone into casting and been like, I will only do this, because I just didn't know what that meant or what that looked like. I definitely have found myself consistently going back to, again, my like theatre roots. I love like very small ensembles. I love films that feel like plays. And I've noticed that like in my work, and like that's why I do loads of short films, is because it's like you're seeing like a pocket of like a world in a very small amount of time, but in a very like honed in amount of time. And I think it's such a beautiful way of like, telling a story that feels like intimate, even if the world is like, is huge. You're being like, you're a fly on a wall, right? And that feels quite like a play.
Yeah, it feels like a fly on the wall, and that kind of play aspect to the kind of short films. Quick question on that, like in terms of like, this kind of touches on writing and like how writers approach you and stuff like that, so we don't have to go too much into it, and we can come into it later. But like, what makes a good short film to cast? Like, if that makes sense, like, oh, this is a short film I'd like to cast because...
Two answers to that question.
Feel free.
So I think a short film, fundamentally, it's the way it's shot. If you are a visual storyteller, I think short films are like a really good way to like express what you're trying to say. And so that's why like I actually think like who your DOP is, and like actually how you write sort of stage directions or like visual like indicators, that is what draws me. Because I'm like, I feel like, again, you have such a short amount of time to tell the story. You can't be giving like this crazy ass backstory. Do you know what I mean? Like, you need to just immediately, I need to know who these characters are. So there's that side. Or you go the complete opposite way, and the writing has to be so unbelievably phenomenal. And you have to like really pull me in. And so like, it's an interesting one where like, when the two come together, you're like, wow, you found like this real like gorgeous treasure. So I feel like when I'm reading a short, I think also shorts are an interesting one, because I think a lot of people will make certain shorts purely because of financial reasons, and I completely, having produced one, like, I completely understand that. So it's why you see a lot of short films that are like set in a flat, or that will not have kids because kids can be expensive, or will be like people in their 20s because it's probably written by someone in their 20s, and so they'll get their friends to be in it, and so it'll usually be like, I don't know, a couple in a flat or two best mates in a park. Do you know? And that is so valid and so beautiful and so gorgeous. But I think sometimes I'm like, okay, what are we doing next? What are we... Because I feel like it's a restriction in the sense that like, I can tell the writer wants to write something different, but because of, you know, access to funding or access to schemes and like there's a limitation. And that's not to be said that that shouldn't be your first short to then go build, X, Y, or Z.
And limitations aren't the end of the world.
100%. Actually,
create things.
Completely. Like, I think people who are savvy in that limitation is going to really like, you could find like the beauty in it, right?
Yes.
But yeah, I'd say it's like, I think it harks back to theatre. Like the text is everything. If you've got a bad play text, you can't really salvage it. You can try, and I respect people who do, but that's the core. That's the core. Yeah.
That's why I like writing. That's why I like talking to writers and developing writers. We talk to cameras here.
I love.
It's like another person. Bouncing between casting, direction, and being in the department.
Yeah.
What is that for you? Like, what is that? Is that an active choice? Is that something you quite enjoy doing? Is that a necessity? Is that just like the time? Like, what is that decision to bounce between based on?
I'm still very early on in my career, and I completely acknowledge that I still have so much to learn, and I think the only way I can learn is from other people and like not from my elders, because a lot of these people are not that much older than me. But there's a level of like, I also believe that casting is so different for every single person who does it. It might have the same building blocks, but everyone has their own taste. They have their own way of working. They have their own kind of like dialogue when it comes to talking about actors, working with actors. Yeah. And so I think when I went freelance, I sort of realized that like in order to gain as much experience, I sort of used the idea of casting assisting as a way to meet people, work with people, be an assistant, be like an admin help, but also allowing myself to do my own work on the side. I want to continue learning and growing and meeting, but I also want to see what does it look like if I'm able to do my plays on the side, my short films on the side. And so that's why I've been like really lucky to work with people who have allowed me to grow in that realm, but also teach me like more things that I like need to know in order to one day become the casting director that I hope that I can be.
Is that's quite fascinating about the conflict of interest thing, and feel free to touch on that as much as you want, but like, is that primarily just the first thing that came to my mind is like usage of actors and like your pool of people being similar and then you take, and what is that conflict especially for someone here who might want to go into casting?
I guess I think it really depends on the person you're working for, of what they gather as conflict of interest. I think, there are some offices, for example, who wouldn't take on an actor, for example, to be a casting assistant because they believe that there's that conflict of interest of like, you're finding out what's behind the curtain, and there's a conflict of interest of you're working on a project that you think you might be right for. Which I think is an age-old question of whether I agree with that or not. I actually think some actors make the best casting assistants because you guys know exactly what it's like to be on the other side. Like, there's an element of, I've got a lovely group of people that I bring on sometimes to help me with maybe running a session or working on a short film with me. And two of the three of them are actors. And I just think they understand more, or they're not more, but they'll understand like very quickly. If I give them a script, they'll understand that script in a way of like, who are these actors we want to bring in? Yes. That the way they break down that script is because they understand the beats, the objectives, the units. Then they'll know how long the side should be for the audition, because they know that, if I've got this amount of time to learn it, I'm not going to, even though these are things I obviously as well have learned along the way.
Yeah, fine.
But the fact that you have an instinctual understanding about it is so helpful.
And I can imagine that streamlines a lot of the work 100%. And the legwork of that.
Yeah, and I'm sure they could run a room in like 5 seconds because they know how to act. Yeah. So they'll read across from an actor very, very well. There's quite a flow of actors wanting to get into casting, I'm noticing, as kind of, again, multidisciplinary, trying new things, understanding different forms. Also, if you're a writer, you end up casting a lot of your own projects, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you are sort of already a casting director to some extent there, right? It kind of feels like a natural course to take that way.
Don't have to blow out your own numbers here, but like, is there an area of casting that is more reliable financially? Is there freelance a bit like dangerous in the same sense as creative is? Like, what is that landscape look like?
I think it's really hard to say, because I don't think there's any sort of like necessarily regulation when it comes to like project, especially when it comes to like assisting, associating, and being the casting director. So I think it really can fluctuate, and I think that also becomes quite difficult, right? When you're all, I think it's like on the like CDG alone, there's like nearly like 400 of us, right? Like, that's a crazy amount of people, and then that's not even including the people who aren't part of the CDG, and you've got like the CSA and the CDA, and there's so many. So I think it's hard to be like blanket statement, this is what the fee should be.
Sure.
I find it interesting when it comes to commercials are like hands down, I believe used to be like the like best sort of stability money maker. And then obviously it's kind of like the obvious one is theatre is not your money maker. And then
it's more about the discipline. Like
it's it's the media. And I kind of wanted to do producing was to understand the overall budget that we were working with, because that was one thing I didn't really know, was that, like, for example, TV casting directors will get given the budget, and within that budget, they are figuring out what goes to who, depending on size of role, size of actor, how many episodes they're in, this, that, and the other. So there's a lot of money play, actually, which I think is like something a lot of people don't realize, is like you got to be good with the numbers. But I was like, but that terrified me. So I was like, okay, let's go to a smaller budget. What does it look like if you produce a short film? And you're like, cool, in that overall budget, what goes to who? So when I'm then having a conversation casting with a director, casting with a producer, I'm understanding more of like when they go, this is our overall, I'll be like, okay, cool, why don't you tweak it here and there? Especially if you're like dealing maybe with, you don't have much to pay people during the day. So you can go for your equity minimum, like stick to that. But what does it look like if you're able to provide them a taxi to and from set? Because you just understand that just giving that little bit more
extra bit is going to make the quality of life just work a bit better, and that affects the production. So very much so. Okay, super. There's a lot of questions I want to ask that kind of feel like they come later. Like, stay on track. He's just so fascinating. Was there any kind of offices that you worked in or people that you worked with in particular, and feel free to shout names on this one, to be honest, that you felt were formative for you and they were like really good lessons in things, let's say positive lessons?
Yeah, of course. I think it was like during the film strikes, I had to sort of hark back to the theatre and the musical theatre world, because no one was taking anyone in film and TV. And I found myself at Stuart Burt's office, literally the sweetest, kindest man on this planet. And I was working also with his gorgeous associate, Peter. And I just think both of them together, it taught me that actually in this industry, like, it's about the collaboration and that synergy you have, and watching them bounce off one another in a way of like, obviously there are different hierarchies. We've got the casting director, we've got the associate, we've got the assistant. Sure. But I found like when we were working together as a three, we knew what we were all doing, sort of like cogs in a machine, but in a way that felt like, well, Peter, like Stuart's been doing this 4 years. Pete has been with Stuart 4 years. And then I'm coming in and learning from all those three. And I just found it such an interesting, especially working with musicals, you're dealing with like so many people coming in for these like movement calls, dance calls, then you've got singing rounds, and it was just it's kind of just really interesting to see how something can flow so well. But within that, you're bringing in these like incredibly like specific actors that Stuart knows off the top of his head. And I was like, I realized that as much as I could try and like run before I walked in this industry, I realized, oh no, it's time. That is what is gonna get you, is being in an industry and meeting people and going to see shows and watching film.
Accumulation.
Exactly, and that will
makes sense.
That is where the quality stand comes from, right? I don't think I could sit here and just be like, I will be this, that, and the other in 2 years' time, because that's just not going to be the case.
How it works, right?
And I think that's something I learned very early on. It's like, I was like 3 years in, and I was like, oh no, I'm not going to learn this overnight. And like it was actually, it's a hard realization, because you're like, I'm very impatient. I'd quite like things to happen straight away. But you're just like, no, like, why do we think that these certain casting directors are where they are at? It's because they've been doing this for years, and they've also seen the industry change, and they've adapted and they've grown, and they've built on those relationships. And you can't, Rome wasn't built in a day. Like, I know that sounds lame, but it's true. Like,
it's a good phrase. I think they've been using it since Rome.
Yeah, so one would think.
I don't know when that phrase came about then, actually. It doesn't have to be from Rome, Kieton. I don't know why I said that. A day of being a casting director or a casting assistant. I think in a like a little headline thing.
Okay.
What does that feel like? Because I think there's always the perspective from the outside of emails. You're getting emails from an actor 24/7, or are you dealing like the agents dealing with that and like the different prongs, and then you're assisting someone, so you've got someone else to answer to and whatever. But how much of your day goes on one thing, the other, and another?
I think, and I will always preface this being like, every single office is different, and so therefore it cannot be the same for each project, for each office, for each casting director. I also, for the last 2-3 years, have worked completely remotely. So that's another thing that I think a lot of people are quite surprised about. That just like, how are you navigating doing all these projects, but like none of you meet one another. You're just constantly on WhatsApp calls or whatever. So, you know, I have like friends of mine in casting, or, you know, jobs that I had done where all I was doing was uploading self-tapes. I was like literally from start to finish, I was uploading, relabeling, and making and literally like documenting. So I think from a casting assistant's perspective, like you are, obviously it's in the title, you are assisting that project to the best means to which they need you. So like it is availability checking actors, it is creating lists, like visual lists, it's creating, uploading self-tapes, requesting self-tapes, doing in-person auditions, as in like organising in-person auditions, you deal with agents all the time. And that's what I find really funny in this industry, is that we are emailing these people every single day. Have we ever met them? Very rarely. And when you do, it's like, hi, like I've known you for 5 years, like how's this going? And it's really funny when they like, you pick up the phone and it's like, you feel like they're your bestie. And then you're like, again, we've never met. Like, this is so bizarre. So in terms of assisting, it's a really admin heavy job. And I think that's one thing that there's a lot of workload because a lot of these offices aren't very big. And again, this is a misconception that I think actors have, that like, this person's like office, because it's like their name with like casting after it, it's going to be like 15 people, 15, 20 people, all like rats going like, typing away. But sometimes it's like 3 people. Literally 3 people. And then you're like, like they're just doing everything. Or they'll bring in like 3 people to do, again, just self-tape uploads for 1 week and then they go. So it's like really depends on where you're working at, and in terms of who's the permanent worker and who's the freelancer. And again, that's why there's like the difference in assisting, associating, and casting, and the director, right? It's like the assistants will. It's like the associates are the managers of the assistants to some degree, and they get given the project and they lead on that project. But the casting director is the overseer of all those projects.
My instinct there sounds like the associates and the main casting people who I'm emailing, because the assistant is doing completely different things and also extremely swamped in an admin sense. But
I would say, and I'd say there's no harm in CCing people into emails, in the sense of like, 2 heads are better than 1, right?
Makes sense.
So like, I think if you are able to find the emails of the assistants or the associates, they are more likely to see the email because they are across emails, whereas the casting director is usually a very busy person. But then again, it's really hard to say that because sometimes at the office, it is just the casting director and one assistant. So it's so difficult to say like,
this is what you should do for everything.
Emailing casting directors, I think it has to be like specific and for a reason. But then other casting directors could say like, no, I'd love to hear like what you've been up to at the moment, or like keeping me posted because I've maybe cast you in this and I'd love to know what's happened next. But I think for me, it's more like, what are you gaining out of this email? Also emailing, like having done it myself, blanket emailing people, like cold calling, it's really draining. It's really emotionally draining and it takes up a lot of your time. I could take like an hour writing 1 email. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's like, why are you emailing it? Is it to tell me to watch you in a show? Is it to invite me to a play? Is it's a purpose? Oh, is it because you want to go out for a coffee and talk about something? There has to be a want, personally. But then again, some people are like, just email with your new headshots or email with your showreel. And I'm a bit like, but I don't have time to look at those. And I'd love to give all of those actors time, but I just don't. We don't have that many hours in a day. So that's kind of, there's
sense.
Like a want there.
And the small caveat that every casting director is different and will have different opinions.
100%.
And I think that's what I learned.
100%.
Is there anything that helps in open casting? Could be a yes or no answer.
I think in the open casting, read the specifics. If you are not that open casting, I'm so sorry to say, like, don't apply. Like, because these open castings, like, you will be inundated. Like, we get inundated on open casting calls. I mean, I'll be blunt. I probably don't get as inundated than like huge freaking offices that put open casting calls out. But there's a level of it, like being like, if you are not a 5 to 7 year old Indian boy who needs to play the trumpet, maybe you shouldn't apply. And that's okay that you're not that person. There will be another role for you somewhere else. If you do really want to email in, and like sometimes the advice I give is like, if you want to email in being like, I really love the sound of this project and I think I would be really good for another role because of X, Y, and Z, then maybe like put yourself forward in that sense. But with a caveat of it being like,
it's not this.
It's not that.
The one.
But read the specifics.
Yeah.
Do we need your headshot? Do we need a video of you skateboarding, for example? Do we need? So I think it's like little things like that where get to the point. Yeah. Don't waffle. Don't tell me your life story.
That's good.
Again, sorry to be horrible.
No, I like this. No, but this is it. It's difficult. I think casting is like, I think being on the other side is helpful for actors sometimes, and like that was something that helped me as an actor, like understand what they're looking at and what they're looking for, being a writer and then casting my own stuff and going, oh, that's how I might be perceived. And so like it is brutal, and like we have those casting people have to make decisions that are difficult, and so the more brutal I think the better, really, because it's just honest and it's the way to work, the way that we get the work. I'm curious about your thoughts on acting or actors for stage and screen.
Yeah.
And the opposition of that.
Yeah.
Do you look for anything in an audition in particular when doing something for stage, doing something for screen?
I think it's one of those things where, you know, a lot of drama schools and a lot of, let's say like community workshops or courses have been built on theatre acting, right? So your strength will probably lie in theatre acting. And I think there's something to be said of actually teaching yourself or not doing a further course. I would never want to tell someone to like spend more money in order to like do X, Y, or Z. But I think there's a sense of they are two very different art forms. And I think people who can jump between the two, phenomenal. Like you've really like honed in the craft of the two. But you can tell when an actor has spent more time on stage than they have potentially on screen.
What are those tells?
I think it's about...
He has no name, so he can be brutal again.
Figuring out their like body exists. It's really funny.
Yeah.
Watching a screen actor do a stage audition and literally forgetting that they have a body because everything's up here. And it's so fair. Like, I get it. You have a close-up, so all the emotion is in the nuance of your face. Yeah. But I'm like, what happened to your legs? What happened to your arms? They're still there, and I can see them because on stage it ain't going to be covered.
Yeah.
So I think that's like a really interesting thing of like someone not fully like embodying the character because they're so used to it being like this and this and this, right?
And the other way around, so theatre to screen.
Everything's a lot bigger, right?
It's just too big.
Too big, right? I mean, again, this is not all the time, but like you can definitely tell sometimes. But that's why, like,
when it's going wrong, these are the things.
That's why, like, self-taping for theatre.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. I've tried it, and I feel for the actor that I made to do that.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Because you're telling someone to be big to a small thing, like if that makes sense. Like, there's an element of it just being quite like jarring, opposing. Opposing things.
No, I hear that. That makes sense. I feel like and the reason I ask as well, because there's the tape. Yeah. So we could talk about that. Is that, what do you feel about tapes? How do you feel about tapes? General thoughts on tapes. Little side eye.
I controversially do not like self-tapes. And I will back that in the sense of like, I think self-tape, actually, I'm going to start again.
Yeah.
I think self-tapes are unbelievably useful in terms of like access in like people maybe who don't live in London, people who maybe can't get to the venue.
Yes, of course.
Maybe it's a quick turnaround and you're like, I physically cannot book in a session and therefore I need to see people and then cast it. I think we need to teeter on the idea that actually self-taping, when you're mass self-taping, it's going to the point where it's like we're kind of going the other way. Right. So we're almost giving too much opportunity. Yes, so then actually it dilutes it, but also it's like what you're saying to the actor is like, let's say you came in for an audition day and it's you versus 15 other people, right? That already feels quite big. But what about if I told you, oh no, but there's going to be 100 people I'm going to get self-taped for this role? That's terrifying. Yeah. And I get it, and I've done it, I will put my hands up. And I've learned along the way that I'm like, I just don't think I like that form of casting. Sure. But then again, each project is different. If you're doing an open, wide casting call around the world, or like in the UK for like a very specific thing, or like this, that, and the other, that in itself is a very important and different thing. Maybe regulation, I don't know how that would look like, of like, what does it look like if you're only allowed to, on a first round, see X amount of people? Or if, I really don't know how that would be regulated. But I think self-tapes can be useful, and they are useful, and they make sense. But I think we have to be aware that like the easiness of me being able to send a self-tape request, there's so much that goes behind that. Literally me clicking send. Yeah. You get the sides, you read the sides, you maybe do some reading up on the project that you're thinking for, you then self-tape for it. But like there's so much time and work, and then you come back and I watch it. Yeah. But it takes me 2 minutes to watch it because that's how long the tape is, but you've just spent 2 days doing it. So I think it's about understanding and balancing that and not taking the piss.
It's not as easy regulation on it.
Yeah, and I do think like it's predominantly like film, TV, like screen stuff. Like I've heard theatre cast like self-tapes just haven't really. Like they're used usually if someone can't get into a room, if they're like abroad shooting or they can't make it down to London.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say you could cast a play fully on self-tapes. It just wouldn't.
Yes,
it wouldn't
it's
work.
an energy that needs to be checked.
But that goes back to your other question of like, what do you like look for in an audition room for like stage and screen?
Yeah.
Like I always say that auditions are like vibe checks, right? Like you go in and if you vibe with the director, like you could do the most incredible like take, but you could be like the worst person. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, but it's like any interview. Like if I don't vibe with the interviewee, like they're not going to want to work with me. And that's not to say that I'm not good at the job and they're not good at their job. It just means that we don't have a fluidity to it.
A connection and chemistry.
And especially I think in the theatre world, you're doing these long rehearsals, right? Do you want to be in that rehearsal room with that person? Are they going to be, if you're a really collaborative worker, I think that's also another thing of like, what if you're, as a director, you're very collaborative, maybe you come from a theatre making background and you have an actor come in and they're like, you give me a script, I do it, and I'm done.
Yeah.
Which is, it's not a bad way of working.
Not a bad way, but it's
they're
a
just
clash,
two different ways of working. And my biggest thing is I always turn to the director being like, could you work with them?
Yeah.
Do you want to be in that? Like, they could be amazing. That person could be just as amazing. Yeah. Also, auditions aren't perfect. It's hard to immediately go to someone like, they'll be this, they'll be that. So that's why you have like multiple rounds and all of this, that, and the other. So I think there's so many factors at play. Which is obviously quite hard to hear for an actor being like, God, now they need to like me as well.
It's a conversation we had a little bit about like it being out of your control and that being the message nowadays of like, the actors, you go in, you give your best, and then whatever happens. Makes sense. I just wanted to take a second to talk about where we're recording this podcast from. The Young Actors Theatre, who have kindly given us the space and collaboration. I started acting here when I was 15. And the Young Actors Theatre hosts a range of classes for nearly basically all ages. Acting, singing, improv, anything you can think of. Classes in half term for younger people. And they also have an agency attached. I absolutely love this building. And I think more people should come here. And if you need space booking, want to run events here, they're up for hire. So check them out. Young Actors Theatre, Islington. Any myths you can dispel about casting? Myths from like a sense of the decision making. I think people might believe that decisions are made based on followers and performances. What is the value system between those two things? When might that be the case? So maybe it's not myths, more that question of how do decisions get made in terms of following versus performance versus.
I mean, I don't think it's like any secret to say that like, let's say like financing a film, the distribution of a film, a play going on in the West End are all fueled by a name, right? And that's that. But I don't think that's a bad thing, because what you're doing is you're allowing the art to be made. And within that, you will always need an ensemble group, right? Obviously, if it's a one-person show, very different situation. But it's hard enough to get things off the ground. That's why you have so many things that are in development, or the pilot gets made and then never get picked up. So I think it would be stupid of us to say we should never start cast anymore. Because we need at least it to get off the ground for then the like people around them to get cast and given opportunity in that sense.
How much do you think it goes into the other parts? Like not the lead, not the enticement, but like the general gist of like everyone involved in that project. And like obviously West End might be different from screen and whatever, so take that as you will. But like, is that something the person auditioning for receptionist is going to have to worry about?
Say that again.
That someone auditioning for something that's a bit smaller or more supporting in the film, the play, whatever it is worrying about, or not worrying about, but like having to factor in that following might be like, are you factoring that in for the smaller roles?
That's interesting. And I, again, probably from like the experience of the projects I've been on, like I would say it's such a case-by-case basis in the sense of like some roles, let's say it's like a cameo role, then I'm wanting to cast a face or a name or something because it serves the plot.
Sure, yeah.
So for example, in comedy, right? If you walk into the gas station and the person behind the counter is a famous TikToker, there's a level of it where like that lands and that's quite funny.
Yeah.
But if it's like a really like dark, moody horror film and I walk into a petrol station and it's a TikToker or influencer, I'd be like, okay, this has kind of pulled me out of the world. Like, this doesn't really make sense.
Right.
So I think, like,
That's a good point, yeah.
I would never want to tell an actor, like, jump on socials. Because I'm also a big believer, like, I don't love social media. It stresses me out. I'm not on TikTok. I honestly, like, I would never get off my phone if I was on it. But I obviously understand the power of it. And, like, my Instagram is, like, my only sort of, like, let's say website. Because I don't feel like I necessarily need to build a website right now. Or... you know, there's IMDb and there's my CDG profile and all of that. But Instagram is quite a useful platform because it's a visual platform, right?
Yeah,
and what we're doing is making visual art. I also noticed there's like two differences in like Instagram followings and why you use your Instagram account when it comes to actors.
Yeah.
So I've noticed a level of like, okay, I'll use like Miley Cyrus as an example. It's a very odd example, right?
Very good example.
I am following Miley Cyrus on Instagram because I know her music. I know her art. I know her work. I am not following her for her content.
Yes.
I am not going to follow her to be like, I wonder what real Miley Cyrus is going to put out. I'm just like, you are a figurehead in the arts.
That I want to keep an eye on.
That I want to keep an eye on. So therefore I will follow you, right? Same with like, I don't know, let's look at like any other like big celebrity name, right? Or like Maya Hawks, Anne Hathaway, whatever. You're following them because that is their profile. That is their like, them using social media for any reason they need to. Whereas there are like social media content creators. Or actors who are getting sponsored content. So their profile is sort of their money-making scheme as well. And it's them putting themselves out there in a different way, right? Yeah. So I think when we talk about followers and like, does it matter that you have this, that, and the other? I sort of look at it as being like how are you using your platform and why are you using your platform and what do your followers actually equate to? Yeah. So like, if you are, again, a content creator or an influencer, your followers are people who are loyal to the product you are making on that platform.
We are twins.
Whereas
I can't talk on my podcast.
So like, it's like, do you have a YouTube channel? Do you have a TikTok channel? Do you have an Instagram? Okay, cool. Those followers are following you on all those things because you're making content for us to consume. Yeah. Whereas like, I don't think you can force a social media presence to some degree. As in like, if you are very good at it and you're very like, because it's really freaking hard. Yeah. Like content creation, like don't get me wrong, like it's the way you've got to be very savvy with like the constant trends and like what people want to watch and editing and all this, that and the other. It's a job within itself. Yeah. So I think as an actor, if you really want to go down that line and you want that path, like I don't know to what extent it will serve you in your acting career.
If it's forced or if it's unnatural or difficult to sustain, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I think a hard thing to talk about, I think I've talked to other people on this, about other guests that we've had, about like the difficulties and challenges and how things going wrong, what even is wrong or what failed or whatever, because something comes back in a different way. But I think it's quite easy to notice as an actor or writer, I don't like what I wrote there or what that performance looked like or anything like that. How does that work for you? Because your work is other people in a way. Your craft is, your product is someone else. Yeah. Is there castings that you feel, again, no names, but that weren't right, or the work you did wasn't up to par for yourself?
But I think I also always have to like preface it with like, fundamentally, no art is perfect. And we are so far in pre-production that we have no idea what the hell the outcome's going to be. So I think it would be really silly to sit here and be like, I was upset by this casting because it just wasn't what I pictured. But I was like, I wasn't there on the day of the shoot. I didn't see, also maybe we didn't have the budget for a chemistry read. Yeah. So the chemistry didn't come through that I thought it would. Or you get these beautiful surprises being like, oh my God, they just naturally clicked. Wasn't that great? Yeah. There's
a lot of factors in it that are out of your control that makes it not about your choice.
Yeah, and I think that also, like, you know, there's subjectivity to it, right? Like, I might have loved an actor, but a director's just like, no, don't want them. I want this person. I'll be like, what probably wasn't my top choice, but I cannot say that against you. You are the director. You want this. You want that. Same with the producer. And it's like, also, there's a lot of facts out of our control where when you're working on a bigger project, you've got a lot of cooks in the kitchen who need to approve.
Yes.
So like, we might give them 5 choices and our top choice is their third choice, right? And then that gets whittled down and then it goes to the next person who needs to approve.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of times where, it's hard to say like blanket statement that like, but there are so many cast that I've been like super proud of.
Yeah.
And when you watch it, you're just like, oh, that was like magic.
You can take all the good work, you can't. No, I'm joking. That makes a lot of sense. I feel like, again, I equate that to like when you say like whittles down between the 1 and the 3, it's like an actor like having the take picked that they didn't like of it. And like
100%.
when it's so far detached from you, how like, especially because you're in a further backstage that in the process than an actor would be on set and then whatever, and like they have to get through the editor and then director and whatever. So like it makes a lot of sense in that regard. Do you feel like that's just you having a good perspective on it? And do you feel like other casting directors might like in the same way an actor might be like, no, I did bad in that film, I didn't like that film despite the steps? Like, is that a good mindset, or is that like something that a casting director could feel like they didn't get it right?
I think I do it as a way of like protecting my like own sanity, because I think like as in like I look at like writers and directors and actors and people who have like what's the word? Even like costume designer or makeup designers, you can like hold your craft. It sounds stupid, like, but like, so if I see a play and you've directed the play, you know what that looks like because you have to, and like, so whereas in casting, obviously I can see my like work because it's the actors I've given, but I had no control over
what they did.
Anything else. Yeah. So I really find myself like, I read a script, I cast it, and then I'm literally like, I'm done. I'm literally like, it's out of my hands now. And so, I've come out of things that I've cast and I was like, not a fan. But that's not to say that it wasn't a good piece. Yeah. It's just to say like, I maybe didn't like it because of this, or I didn't like, because also I believe in this industry, like we should be critical of things, right? We should be allowed to critique in a way that obviously isn't like horrible and rude, but being like, oh, I didn't particularly love their choice of like lighting design. I just thought that was kind of like off and it like threw the mood for me. Like, I just didn't like the shots. I think it kind of, or the edit, like an edit can really change an entire narrative. So I think like, I really believe that I'll watch something, I'll work on something, and then I'm like, cool. Whatever happens, happens. I'm excited to see it, Go have fun, go enjoy.
I think, as you said there about the critical stuff, it's quite interesting. It's like, if I watch someone else's work, or if anyone watched someone else's work, they can critique it as if that directing was bad, or that casting was wrong, or that performance was flat, or whatever. But then again, like as artists, we protect ourselves with our own minds, and I think it's good. It's obviously good. It's a healthy mindset to be able to have that separation and be like, it's not on us. What the product and final thing is, despite how close or far we are from it. What room is there for critique or for a casting to be wrong? And that's because if something's wrong, you might learn from it. And grow.
I think it came from like, weirdly enough, the experience I had when I was a photographer. So like I did like photography kind of like out of COVID for a couple of years, and I had like an Instagram account for it and everything. And like I very much did like test shoots with models, and I kind of went into fashion photography and production photography. And I absolutely hated putting things online because I like the scrutiny you can get to put your artwork out there and be like, people can be like, that's shit. And you're like, oh great, that's great. That makes me feel so good about myself. And I think that's like, that's why I just massively respect people who do make art, because I'm like, I can't believe that you're able to like put it out into the world and be like, whereas I think maybe it's that distance thing I have of just like, I've done the thing, I hope I help.
I feel like I'm jumping back with this question, but I definitely want to ask it. Is there something, and it's something we were talking about off camera as well, but is there something you feel like actors should be doing? Like every actor should be doing this thing?
Yeah. Engage with your industry in a way that like serves you as an artist. So for example, like I find that my like, like all the plays I read at uni were fundamental to who I am now, because it made me, I learned so much through like different texts and different like, plays through the years. So I now know the theatre I like. So I will not go to theatre that I know I won't like. And I think that took time. And obviously everyone's like, engage in everything. And I'm like, there's so much. There's almost too much going on. Staying at home and binge watching a TV series, that's work.
This is work.
That's work.
It's now productive to watch a film.
Yeah.
It's quite funny, isn't
it? But then that also
it's our
comes.
job, so,
that also comes with the with the downside, right? Where like I feel like I can't watch TV.
Can't watch a film without
because it's like, oh, IMDb. Oh my god, that person's that. Oh my god, who cast it?
Yeah.
It's like you can never switch off.
That's why I like reality TV.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Some reality TV.
Yeah, it's so fun because it's just like completely different to what you're doing. The reason why I cast certain short films is because it is something that I
enjoy.
Those genres that I enjoy. I also look at short films, like I look at fringe theatre.
Yeah.
They are the building blocks of the community because it's where fresh new talent start, right? It's like the grassroots, right? So like, why would we need that to exist in order for people to get better and better and better, right?
Keep going.
So like, I don't know, I find it really fascinating when like I'll be doing a workshop, for example, and I'll give them play text and I go, so have you read the play? And they're like, no. I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm not expecting you to have read the whole play. Do you know what the play's about? And they're like, no.
That's a bit annoying.
And I'm just like, but I'm like, how is that going to help you? Because the scene is very specific.
Yeah, right.
And it's the reason why I've picked it is because it's very good dialogue and I love that dialogue in it. But like, it would be quite useful for you as an actor to understand the context of it.
Yeah.
So there are moments like that where like, if you're, doing a self-tape for a TV series and like maybe the TV series is not out, but you could find a short film with the director. You're like, why not?
Why not just watch them?
I think it's like little things like that.
Engage with the industry.
Yeah.
In ways that people enjoy as well.
Yeah. Okay. And don't burn yourself
That's what every actor should be doing. Do it. Engage. Engage joyfully.
Yeah.
Enjoyfully?
But also give yourself like boundaries of it. Yeah, it's like last year I think I saw like 68 shows.
Well, I think I'm on par with you.
Yeah.
I'm getting close.
But you kind of like you get to the end of it and you're like, oh my god, like so draining. So I think that's like taking baby steps.
Mathematicians out there, that's more than a show.
Yeah, no, genuinely.
Crazy. We're on the quick fire.
Okay.
And the quick fire is not quick, but short.
I'll try.
I'm going to make that the segment now.
The fair.
A casting exercise or question you always ask actors in a room. A question you always ask actors in the room. Like when you're on if you're on a panel, like
when
that helps you kind of understand them.
How did you get here today?
You always ask that and you like that. And
I love that. How'd you get here today?
I'll take it. I mean, it is good for me. I like it when I get asked that because it gives me a second to fuck. I don't know. I'm going insert cool joke and make them like me. Which piece of media do you wish you could have been involved in making or casting?
Oh my God, that's a really good one. I guess it's like maybe like a fly on the wall of something like, this is such a weird one, but like something like Peep Show, I think would have been like, I don't know.
I know what you mean.
There's just something about that like casting of it is just so perfect. I probably would have said Peep Show, yeah. Even being like a runner on Peep Show, I can imagine just being quite jokes.
Just involved in that.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Something that you don't like that other casting directors do like. This is the quick fire is where I try to bait people out.
Yeah, it was hard.
But they can get away with it because they just say it and run.
Yeah, that's a really hard one. Like,
trying to think of an example that, loads of casting directors might love getting loads of emails from people, but I hate it.
I
don't know why I did that.
I don't like receiving emails. No, but emails that say like, here are my new headshots. I was like, okay.
Okay, there you
go.
What
do you want me to do about that?
Don't do general headshots. One young artist that you feel like everyone should be looking out for.
Ooh.
And it's hard because it's favoritism, but it's not favoritism because you just name one person. There's many people I'm sure you'd be keen for people to look out for, but anyone you've cast recently or not recently that you think, ooh, they're gonna get there.
Is it Alyssa or Alicia? Alyssa Ford.
Okay. Like
Alicia. My dyslexia's like, do I? She's currently on, I believe, in like Manchester doing Romeo and Juliet.
Right.
And she gave me some like gorgeous feedback about a project I was working on. And I just think there's something, she's also, I think, director in her first short film.
Right.
So yeah, really excited to see what she does next.
Piece of media, book, masterclass that you think everyone should be, actors, let's say, they should look at.
Sounds bizarre, but like I freaking love a round table.
Oh,
you know, like when like old school actors.
I like this answer.
Do you know what I mean? Like you're there, you're like, oh, like Al Pacino's talking about like, oh no, like they were doing one which was
good answer.
Like Michael Keaton was just talking about like making films back in the 80s, and I was like, this is like epic. I'm like, I'm there like in bed, 45 minute, like I love a video essay on YouTube. I'm just there like Love. So that was just me like binge watching Roundtables.
When I made that question, I have to do this caveat. When I made that question and put that in the quickfire, like I feel like everyone's going to end up saying a book. Or and I've been waiting for someone to say something like YouTube shit. Like,
Yeah.
That's what I'm living.
No,
I live on that
genuinely,
shit.
I just think people need to engage in like. I think it's like going back to the idea of like learning from your elders, of just like this idea that like
it's such a useful.
the fact we now get to see behind the curtain of like what it used to be like or how they're asking these like incredible actors.
Back then you couldn't.
I wouldn't say I love the like actor to actor thing.
Okay, fine.
Not
actors on actors, no.
Not. I don't know why.
I'm never going to do casting director on casting director for Fran.
The reason why I like a round table is because there's like so many different people that can like input, and they usually do it like generationally, which I think is. So I remember there was one where like Paul Mescal was I think the youngest person there, and I was like, he must be like, what in God's name am I doing here? Because you're like up against like people 30 years older than you, being like, what was that like? And he's like, can tell you, hun. Like I was in nappies at that point.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Oh yeah, well I'm a big fan of that one, so I'll take that.
Yeah.
What scares you most when you're auditioning actors?
Oh, that I'm going to fluff the lines.
You're going to fluff them?
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
I've done it. I've said people's lines by accident. I fluffed it. Yeah, like the fear is real.
Artist or writer that you would love to keep working with and do every project with, if you had to pick one.
Oh, what, that I've already worked with? Oh no.
Any. Let's say any.
Any. Oh, like you the OGs of like Alice Birch and like Lucy Prebble.
Yeah.
Like Alistair McDowell, like
See that for you.
those kind of like if they ever do like a fringe ass fucking show again, I'd be like, hi, I'm back. No, like the OG writers of like feel like what 2010s.
Biggest risk you feel like you took as a casting director that paid off, or in casting in general?
Having the confidence to distinguish what I could be in the industry in terms of acknowledging that assisting is an admin job and being basically available to people, but allowing myself, but basically standing my ground and being like, but I will do casting on the side. And within that, it might rub people up the wrong way. Some people might not want to work with me because of it, but I've found the beauty in people who have. But that was, I think, a risk that it was terrifying and
That's very good.
It was stressful for the first few years.
That's
but
very good.
hopefully it's gotten me somewhere.
I think did something right, I suppose. That's the quickfire. Well done.
Oh wow, I survived it, guys.
See, survived.
So,
I don't think anyone's died from it yet, so I think you're all winning.
Never say never.
You've had a producing credit in there, as we've
have.
probably seen.
Yeah.
We're going to see the rise of the producer Fran.
So funny you should say that. After I got because we premiered at BFI Flare, literally I got like 3 or 4 emails from people being like, hey, would you like to produce my short film? And I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Random quickfire question now. Do you think casting directors get more emails than producers?
Oh, probably, yeah. 100%.
Definitely,
yeah,
right? Actually, why did I even ask that?
No, 100%.
Kind of hit me. But now I was like, but it's because people are probably too scared to talk about producers, or people not as many people making their work.
Or not enough people know the producers.
Yeah,
they don't take the time
How'd you get the email as well? That's a bit of a difficult one.
Yeah. But no, I learned a lot through that process, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And Lizzie, the director-writer, is phenomenal, and she'll go and do amazing things. She's also an actor. But yeah, I very much realised I think it's the patience. It's the patience and longevity of things. You are with that project from start to finish, and don't know how to do that.
That's a long period.
It's people, you look at certain things that like started off of as like, I don't know, maybe, like if you look at like Chicken Shop Days, for example, right? Starting off with a YouTube thing and then it kind of like molds and whatever. And she's like, I've been doing it for 10 years. And I'm like, honey, whoa, boy, okay, you've got patience. But look where she's come to.
10 years of this now. Yeah.
Exactly.
We'll see how it goes.
Exactly.
Last plugs, anything that's coming up for you? Again, this comes out sometime this year, probably, maybe early next year. So.
Just announced like my short film division, which is like very big, like inverted commas here, guys, which is just a project I've been working on with basically to acknowledge that, filmmakers at a certain, level, like a lot of the time they just don't feel like they have the budget or the means or the access to actors and have a casting director. So I sort of like, what does it look like if I kind of, put my name out there, throw the net wide and kind of give opportunity to those in a way that feels beneficial to us both.
Yeah.
And it to be like, we negotiate fee, we negotiate, like, what does it mean that, like, what do you need me for?
Yeah.
What can I do? But also by doing that, I'm like training up casting assistants on the short films.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a win-win.
It was so funny. I had a question about that, about like early career filmmakers and stuff like that and their integration with casting directors. So clearly, the answer is yes. You think that's a good thing, and I'm so excited for that.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
so cool.
I'm excited about it as well. Let's hope, more shorts.
More shorts, everybody. Get on the shorts. Thank you. You get your complimentary handshake.
So exciting.
Business done.
No.
There we go.
Wow.